Hey everyone, what's going on? Good evening. I am here in the beautiful northern part of Israel, right near the city of Tzfat. The city of Tzfat is in the northern part of Israel. It's known as a Kabbalistic city. Many different mysticists of Israel have lived here. Everyone from the Arizal, who is the author of what was known as Kabbalah, and through the different authors of different halachic books that are written, Jewish law books that are written over the history of Israel. I'm in a beautiful area, in a villa, in a beautiful home here in the area called Nof HaYarden, which is the view of the Jordan, Nofa Kinneret. It's the view of the Galilee Sea. It's absolutely stunning here. I just want to make sure that I got everyone coming in here because for some reason this new way that it's shared, I don't see who's on and who's not on. So I see that one person just signed on, and let me just share this on my own Facebook if you don't mind. So give me a second. We are right now Monday night live. Tune in. Okay, we're going to post this on mine as well. If you are here, let me know that you're here, and so I can shoot you hello, of course. We're going to be talking about some important stuff of, really stuff that's across the world. Is a little bit worrisome, but the truth of the matter is, for those of us living in Israel, this is nothing new. And the question is, are we going to be smart enough to deal with this kind of stuff better than what we did in the past? So let's just see if we can get going here. I want to invite everyone in. If you are in, let me know that you're watching this. I know that people are seeing this. Gracie is in the house. How you doing, Gracie? I am working on my new page right here. And of course, before I begin the broadcast, my priorities have always been, of course, to IDF soldiers. So for those of you watching, I am going to put on the link in 1 second on how we can say, thank you and show appreciation to IDF soldiers who are right now out there. I'm on vacation right now, and many of you around the world are on some kind of summer vacation. But of course, we can't forget the men and women of the IDF who are still on duty right now, making sure that nobody in this country or from outside can succeed in carrying out any kind of terrorist attacks on Israelis, Jews, or other people in this country. And so they're on the front lines, and I'm putting up a link right now. It's going to say, help me say thank you to the heroes of Israel. And of course, those of you, Abraham, welcome. Dedra, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Just waiting for a couple other people to get on here. And if you are signing on to the broadcast right now, I'd appreciate it if you invite your friends in, and let's fill up this broadcast right now. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. Dedra, thank you so much for sharing it out. Right now, I am working on bringing up the traffic on this new page. Of course, if I see it's not working, I'll just go back to my profile. But we're going to try this right now. So the subject of the talk right now, those of you signing in, welcome. Yona Mishan is in the house. What's going on, Yona? All right, so the talk tonight we're talking about was the situation in Israel, what's going on in North Korea right now, and of course, the Nazi march. Stefan, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Everyone, listen to me very carefully. I'm going to give you a whole political background and a rant of what's going on. But those of you who don't know what I do, what my job is running Standing Together. It's an organization that really shows appreciation and lets the soldiers in Israel know there are people around the world who want to thank them and appreciate them. So everyone watching this after the show, if you hit the link, put it down right there by Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate it if anyone would get involved. All right, Dylan is in the house. Thank you. All right, let's get started. We got 10 people here. That's my cue. So here's the thing. I've said this before, and I've said this 1,000 times. The world has seemed to go in a situation or in a direction that diplomacy has taken over morality. This has happened before in the world. It's happened in World War II as, thank you Evelyn for sharing, it's happened in World War II as the Jews were being burned and gassed and shot, and others were also being burned and gassed shot by the Nazis. The world chose diplomacy over morality, and that included everyone across the board, even the great United States of America. You know, they knew where the train tracks were going, and they decided to fly over those train tracks and not blow them up, even though they knew that people were being transported like cattle to their deaths. And of course, you know, the UK signed a treaty with Hitler. Chamberlain signed a treaty with Hitler, of course, because diplomacy was more important than morality. And I think that, you know, after the Holocaust, when we say never again, that is not just some kind of, you know, motto or hashtag to be put on Facebook. That should be the way we live. The idea of never again should be a way of life and not just some empty hashtag you put on social media. And when we say never again, it's not only never again. In other words, what does that mean, never again? Does it mean that nobody like the Nazis can come up again? Well, I tend to differ. I think that we saw in Syria right now a man who's murdering people, hundreds of thousands of them, with everything from poisonous gas to rape to you know, mutilating bodies. So, you know, we haven't done anything about it. So we say never again. What exactly is the message of never again? So for me, the message of never again, for me at least, is the idea that never will you allow evil to triumph, even if diplomacy is on the line. In other words, and this is very important, you know, we don't live by this, unfortunately. I'm going to prove this in a couple of ways in a second. But never again, for me at least, David, how are you, means that never again will we, the Jewish people, and the world should follow suit, never again will we allow evil to triumph, even if diplomacy is on the line. In other words, someone who says to me, you better not attack evil because that will start a world war, we say never again and attack evil to destroy evil, to make sure the tragedies stop. But what happened was, after World War II, after the Holocaust, of course, the UN did start their activities, and the UN's goal originally was to make sure the Holocaust doesn't happen again, make sure the weak are not murdered off by the strong, and the UN will be there to protect them. Unfortunately, the UN has been perverted in their goals. They have a whole group of dictatorships and radical Islamic regimes who forget about others. Their own people do not give their own people freedom, from women driving in Saudi Arabia, and again, throwing homosexuals off roofs. Now again, I'm not getting into the whole homosexual thing. I don't want to talk about it at all, but certainly I do not agree to throwing homosexuals off roofs at any point in time right now at all. So instead of ousting those regimes, which are actually the kind of regimes why the UN was actually created to fight, not only have they accepted those regimes inside the UN, they've actually allowed them vetoes, and they actually allowed them power to control the language of the UN. I think Israel is the best example in this case. We have countries around the world. India, women are being raped right and left, and from the Middle East, Muslims and Christians are being murdered across the Middle East. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of people, over 600,000 people have been murdered in Syria. And over again, the UN has pointed at Israel as the biggest problem in the Middle East, a country where, again, has freedom for everyone, minorities, majority, everyone. Muslims, have the highest rate of literacy in Israel compared to all the Islamic regimes around the Middle East. Freedoms here are beyond what their brothers and sisters around the Middle East can possibly dream of, and yet the UN cannot find it in their other communities. In other words, it's gone to a level of ludicrousy. In other words, just an example, all right? The UN last year, I believe it was, condemned Israel as being the #1 violator of human rights. Israel, right? Neighbors where women have to cover up. And again, I'm not judging their culture. This is what I don't do. I'm not going to judge their culture, okay? But the UN does judge culture. And so in the UN, where they're condemning Israel right and left, and they say we're the #1 violator of human rights, when if a woman in Iran is found not covering her whole face, she's beaten. Women in Saudi Arabia, again, cannot drive. They do not have equal rights across the Middle East, but again, Israel's targeted. The reason for that, in my humble opinion, is pure anti-Semitism. But it's not just empty anti-Semitism. This is already religious-based. In other words, the Muslim countries don't want a Jewish country around the Middle East anywhere. Doesn't matter what size and what settlements do or don't exist. That's totally irrelevant. And unfortunately, the world has gone along with that. Now, what's happened over the last couple of years is the same terrorism that's hit Israel over the last 69, 70 years has now begun to hit Europe. Right? It's hit France, it's hit Germany, it's other areas around Europe. And instead of getting smart, instead of smartening up and saying, okay, you know what, maybe Israel was right, and the people who are murdering people in the streets, the people who are flying planes into towers, the people who are blowing up marathons and running cars into people, and I'm not talking about Israel, I'm talking about across Europe and the United States and everywhere else, instead of saying, you know what, maybe Israel's right, they don't do that. What do? They say, oh, well, Israel is different than us. We are free for the Muslims. They have no reason. But Israel, oh, well, maybe they have an excuse called occupation. I'm not going to get into the whole occupation claim right now, the farce. That's not the goal of the of tonight's broadcast. However, the idea of diplomacy, when we're dealing with a belief system, which is a genocidal, religious-based belief system, now, whether Islam believes in this or not is totally irrelevant for this discussion. The fact of the matter is that the majority of people who are murdering Jews in Israel are screaming Allahu Akbar, or screaming the Islamic declaration of faith in their Allah before they murder people. And when I say murder people, forget about ramming people and, they're talking about taking sledgehammers and cleavers and slaughtering people, walking into homes and slaughtering full families and stabbing 8-month-old babies and sniper firing 8-month-old Jewish babies. I was in Hebron around 2 months ago, for those of you who saw the video, and of course, I spoke to the cousin, or to the nephew of Ahmad, his name was Isa Maru. Ahmad Maru was his uncle, who was a man who was guilty of firing an 8-month-old baby, murdering by bullet an 8-month-old baby who was murdered, Jewish baby was murdered in Hebron, and he was denying it. He was denying it completely. So let's just skip over the whole land claim, okay? This is not the land, is the culture. And the world, instead of saying, okay, listen, that culture, that radical Islamic culture is no good. It's evil. It's a definition of evil. And no excuse of land or occupation or any other fabricated historical claim is going to wipe the fact that Israel is dealing with a very, very cruel and immoral culture. The world was not smart enough to say that. So the UN doesn't bother me, people. It really doesn't. So, and neither does UNESCO. What bothers me is world opinion. Where are the people who really agree with never again? I'm not talking about Jews. Well, even also Jews, of course, we know in America, the left-wing Jews are literally choosing the sides of those who are murdering Jews. But it's that culture idea that, well, they seem like the underdog, even though they attacked all the time, even though they're the ones who have a genocidal charter who calls to the destruction of the Jewish people. Let's choose the underdog because they're losing. Okay, when someone's losing a war they started, it doesn't turn them into the underdog, it turns them into the losers. And they should have to pay the price of starting a genocidal war against the Jewish people. But instead of the world seeing it that way, they blame Israel. And it's really ludicrous, because Israel, for the first time, the Jews, the first time in 2,000 years, have the upper hand. We're not going to lay back anymore. We're not going to, march into gas chambers with our hands up anymore. Those days are over, and I guess the world doesn't like that, which is okay. Doesn't bother the world, doesn't like that. But the point being is, we see there again the same idea of diplomacy taking over morality. Well, let's try to figure out a solution, right? Let's ignore the culture. Let's ignore the murderous culture, and again, not based on, well, I think, or ideology, based on a religious claim, right? Let's ignore the sermons that go on weekly on the Temple Mount in the mosques, talking about murdering Jews and slaughtering Jews, and again, not because of occupation. And they don't say Zionists, they say Jews. Evelyn, thank you so much for sharing. How are you, by the way, Evelyn? Evie. But in any case, that's what's going on in Israel. Now let's move over a little bit to North Korea. Okay, North Korea has a psychotic dictator who now has nuclear weapons, who has no hesitation to use those nuclear weapons on anyone. Now, the problem is that the world closed a blind eye. You don't get nuclear weapons in a second, okay? This is a process. But the world said, oh, well, you know what? North Korea is not our problem. It's their own culture. Live and let live, and let the psychopath get nuclear weapons. So now we're at a situation where he's armed with nuclear weapons, and he's testing them, and he's threatening the United States of America. Now, Trump gets up and says to them that his quote was, if they keep this threat up, they will see fire and fear as the world has not known before. That was a correct response. Now, forget Trump, yes, no, that's completely irrelevant. When you're dealing with a psychopath who has an ideology of destruction, who is a dictator and does not believe in general any civil rights. So you should not be talking diplomatically to that kind of person. The same way that Chamberlain should not be talking to Hitler in diplomatic ways and signing deals with him. Nobody should be talking to this guy in North Korea in diplomatic ways. He doesn't care about those diplomatic ways. He doesn't believe in democracy. In other words, diplomacy means we talk, you talk, let's argue about it and decide who's right. He doesn't believe in diplomacy. There's no democratic rights in his country. There's no tit for tat, and let's talk about it and decide who's right. He decides. Okay, now the issue is he's threatening the United States of America, so Trump got up, and then everybody was like, oh, Trump's going to be World War III. Again, I don't want to, talk like gutter talk. Are you nuts? Trump's going to cause World War III? A psychopathic dictator has nuclear weapons that must be destroyed, and Trump's the crazy person. And again, irrelevant of everything else that Trump is carrying on him, okay? I'm not talking about that now. But for answering back a threat of a psychopath who's a dictator who's threatening the United States of America with nuclear weapons, he's not going to start World War III. The psychopath dictator will. And again, if we don't figure out how to destroy those weapons completely, we will be facing a nuclear attack wherever you are. Okay? The leader there is immoral, completely immoral. He doesn't believe in rights of his own people. Forget about others. He's threatening the United States of America and South Korea and the whole world with nuclear weapons. Of course the answer should be a very, radical answer. Of course it should be fire and brimstone and that the world has never seen. Because the only thing that a psychopath might understand is that the person on the other side, which happens to be Trump right now, is not kidding around. Now, I don't know if Trump is bluffing or not. I don't know. But I had someone this week tell me this is why the Iran deal was so good. Diana, thank you so much for sharing. And the other 7, thank you for sharing. This is why the Iran deal was so good, because we're having them in control. Again, are you crazy? You're trusting a religious regime, a genocidal religious regime that wants to burn down the West culturally, and because he signs a piece of paper for money, you believe him? Okay, newsflash for all those living outside of Israel, the Middle East. Radical Islamic terrorists cannot be bought with money. How do I know that? Well, if they could be bought with money, they'd be sitting quietly in Israel. Because, like I said, Muslims in Israel have more freedom than their brothers and sisters have across the Middle East. And if it was money and the quality of life, they would be on Israel's side. I mean, look what's happening in Gaza, for example. Look what's happening in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria. When Israel was in charge, they had business there. The Jews were eating in their village. I drank coffee in Bethlehem before 1993, 94. I can't go in there now. It's dangerous. Gaza, they were working for all kinds of places. And now what's going on? George, thank you so much for showing. I appreciate it. So it's clear that it doesn't work. So if you are trusting, and I want to know, who are the American people on the ground in Iran checking things? I'm really interested to meet those people and hear from them, because I don't know who they are. And if anyone out here knows who they are, please let me know here on the stream. Who are those American people who are checking Iran to make sure that they are not developing more uranium and more nuclear weapons? So again, that fantasy land, that kind of like Alice in Wonderland kind of ideology that says, oh, everything will be okay with diplomacy, we'll trust the Iranian government, and no, the people might not be the problem. They might be completely brainwashed. But we'll trust a genocidal religious-based government that they will not cheat us. Because that makes sense, right? I mean, again, Chamberlain signed the treaty with Hitler, and I keep on going back to that because that is a perfect example. Chamberlain signed a treaty with Hitler, trusted him, and he brought peace in our time, right? Of course you didn't bring peace in our time. All you did is you signed a deal with the devil. You signed a deal with evil. That's what you did. And we know what the end result was. So that's the same thing with Iran. And so North Korea right now, it's unbelievable to hear the left scream that Trump is a crazy man because of this. He might be a crazy man for other things. I'm not saying he's not. Okay? But to say that he's a crazy man for this is absolutely insane. The fact that he answered a psychopath dictator with a kind of a psychotic kind of statement is the only way that the psychopathic dictator will understand. You think he's going to understand Bubala Mubala? Oh, if you just behave, we'll be your best friends? North Korea couldn't give a hoot about it, the United States of America. Zero. They're not getting anything from us. from the United States of America. So the only thing that this man will understand, if he even understands that, and I'm not sure that he will, by the way, is a real threat that if you dare, Claudius, I appreciate the share, if you dare threaten the United States of America, you will have to face fire like the world has never seen. And that is the only way that one can deal with this kind of ideology. Not people, this kind of ideology. Now let's go to the United States of America, which to me is frightening beyond belief. There was this Nazi parade that was supposed to go through Virginia, I believe it was, or if I'm mistaken, please someone, let me know what it is. And there was a demonstration, the opposite side, of radical left wing also. And again, of course, I'm against the Nazis. There's no question about it. And if I would have been there, we probably would have gotten physical with them, because there's no language that these people understand. You can't judge by Western morals people who do not believe in Western morals. Okay? You can't sell to a radical Islamic terrorist Western morals. Well, we'll give you a new car. We'll give you some money. Okay? You don't get them if you believe that. It's absolutely ludicrous to say that. They don't believe in your morals or immorals, by the way. Okay? Only Americans can be, only the Western world can be bought out with money like that. The radical Islamic terrorist isn't bought out. He's killing himself and murdering innocent people. He walks into a home and slaughters a family. You think money matters to him? It's just crazy. It's ludicrous. So, in America, these people who are Nazis or neo-Nazis, there's no way to deal with them. And by the way, if you arrest them, unfortunately, you're going to turn them into heroes. I don't know what the solution is. But the point is that there was this horrific demonstration in America of the Nazis. But on the other side of the coin, and this is, I'm going to put them in the same camp. The radical left-wing, what are they, Leafas, what are they called in the universities? These crazy people with bandanas and attacking the democracy in America. Both sides are as dangerous as each other is. They're both dangerous to each other and to America. They're both dangerous, okay? The left wing in America who said Trump is not my president, I will not accept Trump, they are stripping democracy out from America, and these neo-Nazis are stripping democracy out from America, okay? Just because they're two evils doesn't make one better than the other. They're both evil. They're both evil according to American, the American way, the culture, okay? Free speech, yes, of course. But the second you say, I'm not accepting the democratic process, Trump is not my president, whatever it is, let's oust Trump. Okay, when you pictures of Trump hanging, whatever you do, it's insane. Can you imagine what would have happened if someone would have had a picture of hanging Obama? Which again, I wouldn't have accepted. I completely opposed Obama. Okay, for many different reasons. I'm not going into it anymore. He's irrelevant to me, right now at least. So, again, the double standard here between the left and the right is truly unbelievable. But again, we're talking about the same culture problem. In Israel, we have a radical Islamic ideology. Okay, nothing to do with land or occupation. This radical Islamic ideology existed long before Israel. I'm not even talking about in Hebron in 1929 when they slaughtered the Jews. I'm going back to 1066 in Morocco and Granada when they slaughtered the Jews. I'm going back to Yemen before Israel was ever the modern state of Israel ever existed when they slaughtered Jews. I'm going back to the idea that Jews could not have equal citizenship. And yes, there were Islamic countries over the generations that have protected Jews better than the Christian countries. That's true. But let's not make believe it was a bed of roses. There were slaughters and massacres throughout history. Throughout history. So this hatred that existed long before Israel. And again, that radical Islamic terrorist kind of ideology based on religion. And I didn't say that the religion says everything that they base it on, but based on that religion, okay? Then we have North Korea, which is a psychopathic dictatorship who's threatening America with nuclear weapons. We have the Nazis in America, and we have the radical left wing in America as well, which is, they're all stripping away from free democratic culture. They don't believe in Western society. They don't believe in Western values. None of them do. None of them do. They, each in their own, are stripping away at those values, which, again, I would say is the best system we've had over the last several millennia. Okay? Democracy is not perfect. Hitler came up with democracy. However, to date, okay, unless it's a God-sent king, right, it's the best system of government we have today with all its downfalls. These people that I've mentioned, these several examples, they don't believe in that system of government or those system of values at all. And again, the world is back to a situation where diplomacy has taken over morality. Diplomacy is now more important than morality. And this has got to stop. If we don't stop this right now, if we don't nip it in the bud right now, it's not going to get better. Things are not going to get quieter. And the certain, time that there is silent or quiet is not, oh, well, we have quiet for 4 months and therefore it's going to be quiet. No, they're getting stronger. We've seen this in Israel. And unfortunately, the Israeli government has kind of ignored this in Lebanon since 2006, 11 years ago. Right? I'm standing right here in we're almost at the northern border of Lebanon. 2006, the Second Lebanon War. We just visited a beautiful memorial today for 4 soldiers who were killed in the Lebanon War. But again, right, we say we got out of Lebanon in 2000, right? I think it was Ehud Barak who got out of Lebanon in 2000, and we have quiet for 20 years, right? Except the Lebanon War, we have quiet. Okay, that quiet is not good. Do I want war? No, I don't want war, but I don't want to ignore war. Right now, Hezbollah, according to all the military experts, have triple the amount of missiles they had before the Lebanon War. So this quiet is not good. It's horrific. It's like someone is sick, God forbid, and they don't have the symptoms. And by the time they get to the hospital, it's too late, God forbid. That's not good. Rather be aware that there's a problem. Okay, the fact that we don't know that there's a problem, or we're ignoring the problem, doesn't make it better, and doesn't make it better. Again, doesn't make it a bed of roses. No, it just makes us blind, consciously or subconsciously, intentionally or unintentionally. So Lebanon has triple the amount of weapons. Gaza, again, they're digging tunnels. So Israel's now building a wall now. Right? Israel's building a wall to stop the tunnels. I mean, come on, people. I'm happy they're doing that, and I hope it stops the tunnels. But it's like putting a Band-Aid on an open wound where the blood is pulsing out. There's a problem in Gaza. It's not tunnels. It's an ideology that believes in murdering people. So you're building a wall. Yay! Great. But it's not taking care of the problem. It's not going to fire missiles over the wall. So what? So you're going to bomb Gaza or not? Listen, I said it again. In terms of Gaza, there's no choice. If Israel does not take control over Gaza and security control over Gaza, this will continue. We could put on as many band-aids as we want. It's not going to help. When it comes to North Korea, I unfortunately do not think that we can escape this. The world, I think right now, which is very scary because it's nuclear weapons, war is inevitable with North Korea. Not because we want it, because we're talking about a person in North Korea who does not have any values for life, his own people, values for freedom, and again, his own people, or values for anyone else's life. And if he's threatening the United States of America right now, I don't know what the solution is. I'm not, an expert in nuclear weapons or reactors or whatnot, but something has to be done because this man will start a nuclear war without blinking twice. When it comes to America, I was a little bit surprised, but I understand that Trump did say it afterwards, and he did mention the neo-Nazis by name. I don't believe it's because it's his electorate. I don't believe that for a second. I think that's left-wing propaganda. It's the left-wing trying to strip away democracy by spreading fake news and rumors. We have it here in Israel as well. Netanyahu is facing that day in and day out in this country. So the world's not buying it anymore. They failed with the fake news during the elections, and they haven't learned their lessons. But Trump should have called that out, and I understand afterwards he did call it the Nazis. That needs a very swift solution. That cannot go on. We cannot, start arresting people here and there because they're Nazi flags. That has to go into the communities wherever they are and uproot the evil from the source. And if we don't do that, if America does not do that now, it is not going to be good in the future. It is going to be much, much worse. In terms of the left wing, the same thing has to be done. If you believe there's a value of preserving the American way of democracy and freedom, then you cannot allow people who deny that freedom and that democracy or speak out in order to uproot it to keep doing that, okay? We've seen, I've listened to Ben Shapiro over and over again in his debates, and I've seen him having been taken out of universities in cop cars, his life being threatened. And that, again, that is a huge problem. I don't remember, I grew up in America, I don't remember ever somebody talking in a university having been escorted out of the university in Berkeley, right? Oh, the very liberal university, being escorted by police because their life is in danger. Okay, that is not humanity. That is not, some kind of left-wing compassion. That is evil. That is stripping away the freedom of speech, which America holds up to a level of something holy and sacred. And if we don't stop that now, if these people are not ousted from the university, okay, take the opposite. Imagine a group that raised a swastika in a university. Of course they should be thrown out, expelled from the university. The same people who are upholding a flag which believes and symbolizes in murdering people and not giving freedom to everyone, and the people on the left, radical left of course, who apparently believe not in the same thing. Again, he was a socialist, but that's not where I'm going, but not allowing freedom of speech in the university. Why is that any less of a danger than having these Nazis marching through America? They're both trying to strip away at the very, very valuable culture that America stands for. So both have to be uprooted from the root, and if that doesn't happen now, there's going to be a very, very big problem in America. And again, I understand the values of freedom of speech, and I understand the values of freedom and all that stuff that America stands for. This is not freedom. Screaming fire in a crowded theater is not freedom of speech. Raising the Nazi flag or stopping freedom of speech is not humanity. It's not some kind of like, oh, look at me, I'm upholding some kind of compassion. That's not compassion, that's evil. So those three things have to be taken care of immediately around the world. And I do hope that there are leaders, because I don't see them right now. I don't see them. I hope that there are leaders who know how to do this both in a very, very direct and strong way, as well as a careful one, I guess. We don't want a nuclear blowout all over the world. I really don't know how we're going to get through this with North Korea. All right. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about my vacation. We are up north in Israel with the whole family. It's a really beautiful vacation here. I am in a villa. I am in a beautiful home here next to Tzfat, the northern part of Israel, called Nof HaYarden. The view of the Jordan Valley, of the Jordan, or Nof HaKinneret. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. The video froze a little bit. We're in the beautiful northern, pretty much the northern part of Israel. Went to Rosh Hashanah, which was one of the first towns here built. Beautiful, beautiful town. People who really built with their, bare hands. And originally the Arabs were actually together with the Jews here, and then there was the Arab revolt, and they just turned on the Jews, and many of them slaughtered the Jews here, and the Arabs who were friends had to leave. And at the end of the day, what happened after the Jews completely cultivated a land that was rocks and stone, nothing here. The Arabs burnt down the fields and they uprooted the trees, and some things don't change. King Solomon said, Shlomo Melech said, "En chadash tachat Hashem, there's nothing new under the sun." Things don't change because, and back then there were no settlements, because this has never been about land. This has never been about an occupational claim. This has been about a hatred feeling towards a Jewish presence in the area. All right, but anyway, I am on a beautiful vacation. The country's absolutely stunning out here, and it's an honor to spend some time with the family. All right, I'm finishing up here. I'm reminding everyone, I know you all love I appreciate all the thumbs up and all the shares you're giving me. What I am asking everyone to do, please, is I am posting right here, again, the link. Help me say thank you to IDF soldiers. I'm putting the link up right now. We've had right now over, I don't know, a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000 people watched over the time here. 300, 400 views now. If everyone put in $18, we'd have 5 or 6 different, trips out the soldiers paid for. So I'm going to sign off right here from the absolutely stunning northern part of Israel. If anyone does come to Israel and you want to know where we're staying, I'll give a really 2 thumbs up for the place that we are, Nahal HaKinneret, Nahal HaYarden. And if you want to know where we are, just shoot me a private message and I will give you the details. All right, everyone, I am out of here. Have an awesome, awesome evening. And don't forget, feel free to share the video, give it a like, and hit that link. And let's continue to say thank you to IDF soldiers. Have an awesome, awesome week, everyone.